Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would share with you the books that I have on my TBR that I think are going to be 5 stars. I mentioned in a couple previous videos that at the beginning of the year I made a list of 5-star predictions, and a couple of you guys were interested in hearing what those books are. It's also a category that is in my TBR jar, so this will be a good video that I can reference back to if and when I do pick that challenge out of my jar. So I have, let's see, 11 books on this list. The list has changed a little bit because I have already read 6 books that were on the list I made at the beginning of the year, so I've added more. It's very interesting because the ones that I have already read, I either loved them or I hated them. So 2 of them I rated 5 stars, and that is The Library of the Unwritten and Station 11. I loved both of those. They're my new favorite books. One of them I rated 4 stars, and that was Prosper's Demon. I really did enjoy that one, but it's not a new favorite. One of the books I rated 1 star. It's my least favorite book I've read in a long time, and that was The Wives. And then 2 of them I DNF'd, and that was The Unspoken Name and The Twisted Ones. Those are both books that I might go back to at some point, but I just wasn't feeling them, so I decided to put them down. So it's very interesting that of the ones that I've read that were on this list so far, I had very strong reactions to all of them, whether it was I strongly liked them or I strongly disliked them. It gives me a good idea that all of these books are ones that I'm gonna have strong feelings about, whether they're good or bad. So the first one I have is Feed by Mira Grant. This is a very topical book at the moment. It's the first book in a series about zombies, and basically there was a virus that went around and people are now turning into zombies, but instead of a lot of other zombie books, society didn't just collapse, it adapted. So there's still government, there's still society, and I believe this book follows a blogger. I could be wrong, but I believe it follows a blogger who is working on the campaign trail for the next president. So yeah, this sounds really interesting. I love Mira Grant. She is the pen name for Seanan McGuire, where she writes her horror books. So this is one I've been really excited for. Don't know if I'm gonna read it right now, just with everything that's going on, but I've rated everything by Seanan McGuire 5 stars. I have no doubt I'm gonna love it. The next book is Alice by Christina Henry. This is a Alice in Wonderland retelling that takes place in an asylum. So Alice finds herself locked in an asylum, and it sounds really interesting. I read The Girl in Red by Christina Henry, which is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I gave 5 stars. It was one of my favorite books of last year. So I'm very interested in this whole horror fairy tale retellings that Christina Henry is doing. And I feel like Alice in Wonderland, just as a story in itself, has a lot of horror elements that I feel like could be very easily adapted into a straight up horror. The next one is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This has been compared to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It has a similar style of, it's about an older woman retelling her life. It's set in the 1940s in the New York theater industry, and I believe that the main character is also kind of similar to Evelyn Hugo in the sense that they're both very strong women who are willing to do whatever it takes to advance in life. So I'm definitely excited for that one. I feel like it has a lot of potential. So the next book is Middlegame by Seanan McGuire, the second book by her on this list. I feel like I still don't really know what this book is about. I believe it has something to do with like genetic engineering, like these 2 twins are genetically made. I could be completely wrong about what this book is about, but it is by Seanan McGuire. It's one of those books that I've just been putting off reading because I know that I'm gonna love it. It kind of intimidates me a little bit. So hopefully by me putting it on this list, it will force me to read this. My main goal is to read all of these books by the end of the year. So the next book is Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is a book that I have been DM'd about. People have left me comments. Just people tell me all the time that they think I would love this book. It is a fantasy novella. I believe it's queer, and I think it has to do with fae. It's about an enchanted forest and creatures of an old god. Sounds like a lot of things that I'm going to enjoy. I also got an arc of the sequel, So this is definitely a book that I want to read soon. The next one is The Surviving Trace by Calla Reed. So this is a time travel romance, and I have really high hopes for this because I have loved every time travel romance that I've read. It's a trope that I just really enjoy. This, I believe, is about a woman who finds this old photograph and somehow it like transports her back in time. I think that she gets transported into the body of someone in the past who she looks exactly like, but her like past self has a husband. They don't get along. So it's like about her in this marriage with a husband who doesn't like her past self, but her like present self and that husband, you know? The next book is The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is a book that I am very excited for because it won the Hugo Award for Best Novel last year. So that in itself tells me it has a lot of potential. So this is a alternate history sci-fi book. It takes place in the 1950s after a huge meteorite falls to Earth and wipes out pretty much the entire east coast of the United States. And it causes a climate catalysm that will soon wipe out the entire Earth. And so this book follows a woman who is a mathematician, and she is working to try to find a way to take humans into space. Yeah, it sounds great. It's won a ton of awards. It has a very high rating on Goodreads also. So I have very high hopes for this one. The next one is The Book of M by Payne Shepherd. This is another post-apocalyptic book. So I believe that this is about some sort of eclipse where one day the eclipse happens or something happens and everybody loses their shadows. You can't see your shadows anymore. And then the next day, everything's back to normal, everyone's shadows are back, except they're not. One man realizes his shadow never came back, and slowly he's starting to lose his memories. And that is a phenomenon that is happening to a lot of people where their shadows never came back and they're starting to lose their memories. So I'm very excited for this one. I love post-apocalyptic books. I've never read one that I didn't enjoy. They tend to make my favorites lists at the end of the year, so I'm very excited for this one. It sounds very unique compared to a lot of the other ones that I've read. So the next book is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a book that really wasn't on my radar. I had heard of it, but it didn't really sound like something that I was going to like, and then I just kept hearing more and more about it. More people were like loving it and rating it 5 stars, so I decided to look into it a little bit, and I feel like this is a book I'm either going to absolutely love or absolutely hate. It's a very dark book. It's about a woman who, when she was in high school, she had a relationship with her English teacher when she was in high school. And now she is all grown up, and that English teacher has been accused of sexually assaulting a student. And it's kind of about her coming to terms with the fact that her relationship when she was a teenager with that teacher, she felt like the way that she's always felt about it was that it was a relationship. She never thought about it as it being wrong or abusive. But now that all this stuff is coming out and he's doing this to other students, she kind of is having to self-reflect and realize that she was sexually abused. And it sounds really intense. It's definitely, I feel like it's not going to be a fun read. I feel like it could be very impactful. And I do know that this author wrote from personal experience, and she also spent, I believe, like 10 years researching and interviewing people in the field and people, you know, with firsthand experience. She put a lot of thought into this book, so I don't think it's going to be glorifying or romanticizing in any way. But we'll see. I am excited to read it. And then the last book on my list is actually the only one that I have physically here with me. As you can see, I'm not at my apartment, so I don't have all my books with me. But I did order this one, and that was The Deep by Alma Katsu. This is a historical horror book set on the Titanic that is about ghosts. It sounds really interesting. It's a blend of my favorite genres, historical, horror. I'm excited. The blurb says what really happened on board the Titanic. And this cover is just so beautiful. I definitely wanted to order a physical copy. One, because I think it's gonna be 5 stars. I think I'm gonna love it. It's very beautiful. But 2, this book was released I think last week, and I do know, like, I feel really bad for the authors who had book releases last week or this week, just with everything that's going on. I know that this whole situation is really impacting authors' sales, especially debut authors. Oh my gosh, I feel horrible. So I really wanted to purchase a physical copy of this book. So those are my 5-star predictions. Hopefully at the end of the year, I can make a follow-up video and we can see if these 5-star predictions came true and what I thought of them. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!